3.
Oh my God. That was a moment.
Are we official?
Oh my goodness. How exciting. This is the start of something really special, I feel.
I know.
It really is.
Hi, I'm Sydney Robertson.
And I'm Amy Kiernan.
And Reinventing the Algorithm is our invitation to you to reimagine work and life with intention, purpose, and a sense of freedom.
Together, we're going to explore what it means to show up as our true selves. And so this is for anyone that's ready to create a more meaningful, fulfilling journey on your own terms. All right, so we're going to move into our 30-minute
Intro
shoot the shit
episode.
episode.
Shoot the
shit. We're going to include that.
I also I'm still thinking about nuns and crop circles.
I have become increasingly unhinged as this day of recording has
The delirium has
progressed.
set in for us.
And now we do our intro, so maybe that's a good thing because we have the energy.
Yes, it's true.
Yes. So we're going to keep all this in.
Okay.
So I guess what we'll do is we'll tell our story
Yes.
to anyone that's listening, anyone that wants to support us, and anyone that's curious, I guess, about why are these two ladies doing this podcast? Another podcast with two ladies? Really? Is that what we're living
The
for?
two
Is that
little tech biddies.
or former tech biddies, as the case may
tech
be.
biddies, very true.
Yeah. So, well, where do we want to dive in, sitters?
Well, Ames, as we sit here in London, England.
Yes.
Hello. As we sit here in London, we just had an epic week together.
Yeah.
You and I decided to go on this pod journey together.
Yep.
It's been like 4 months now.
Yeah.
3 or 4 months. We
Yeah.
decided to do this.
Living in the liminal space.
Living in the liminal
supporting each other.
space. I've known you for over 10 plus years.
10 plus years.
But, like you moved, across the pond to Ireland.
I
and
did.
I was left behind in Canada. And, it's so interesting that even though we were living these two separate lives,
know.
that you and I came back together in this
We did.
time in our female founder journey. And who knew this would be, you have your story of, why you left the corporate space. I have a similar
Very similar.
story, different timing, and
Yes.
for the same and different reasons, really.
Yeah.
But the fact that we came together and, we talk a
we're
lot
here.
about being on the same frequency, same energy. It's like,
Yes.
here we are,
Absolutely.
in
here we are.
London together.
In London. So, just starting this journey together. And, I think what kind of brings us together too is this kind of sense we talked about earlier of like, we're meaning making, we're meaning seeking. And, we're deep thinkers and we want to kind of explore what has been happening to us and like what our stories mean about who we want to be now in this point in our lives, because we've been through it a little bit. I mean, everyone obviously has their own stories of struggle. And I think for us, for everyone that's listening, our stories were very similar and they've also become even more similar as we've moved into this founder journey. But I would say for me, I started off in the corporate world very much under the belief system and mindset that, I must be a high achiever. I must be perfect. I need to be good enough, and I think I had an inkling all the way that, this sense of enough was a destination that I was never going to get to. Like it was not actually possible to get to this place of enough with a capital E. But I think, as so many of us are, and also as women, we're conditioned to please others, to look externally outside ourselves for a sense of worth and validation. And, so it's a combination of, I think, conditioning and also when we have a sense of perhaps anxiety around uncertainty, being able to perhaps control, or we think we are controlling other people's perceptions of us, that can feel very powerful and very good to have that control, but it's an illusion.
It's also insatiable.
Yeah.
Because as you and I both know, both our roles prior, were sales roles.
Yeah.
So there's always an outcome that's,
Yes.
rooted in revenue,
Yes.
in numbers.
Yes.
And, the cliche line, you're only as good as your last sale. I mean,
Yeah, we used to laugh about that.
Yes,
My
of
God.
course. And we'd have this victorious, you and I both thrived in the sales environment,
Yeah.
loved it, obviously.
We were good girls.
I'd say we were both pretty decent in the sales biz,
Yeah.
at least. And I feel like, we would, have these wonderful achievements and they would be such a high. And then next quarter rolls around and that number keeps going up because that's how the sales world works. And so, you would always be feeling like you were not enough,
I know.
to a certain degree. And and I mean, we both worked for a phenomenal company for years.
For a long time.
For a long time.
I also wonder though as well, like sometimes I think about old Twitter, and there was so much that was good about it. Like there really was. But I've done a lot of work this past year to kind of unpack why it was so painful for me, what happened when it changed with Elon and with everything that we experienced. When a company, a corporation calls you a family, right? I think that it was setting us up to fail in a sense, right? Like, so, it sets you up to get your emotional needs met by your company, by your job. And that is deeply unhealthy. And I never really knew that. I never really realized that I was in that, because it felt good. It felt really good to work in an environment
if things
where my needs
changed,
were being met.
I'd still be there.
Right.
Like I loved working with the team I had.
Yeah.
I mean,
we
Paul's
worked with
an
amazing
leader.
people.
You were amazing, like as a counterpart. I love my team so much.
Oh my gosh.
I still consider. We still have Twitter camp. Danielle, our co-founder, and on Born to Bloom.
We'll always be friends with those people.
It's like my favorite. And oftentimes too, the people I talk to that that were our original tweets. I mean, it's hard to find that kind of a family, like you said, anywhere else. And maybe we don't want that again. So I hear you on that. There is also though something like we had our slogan, love where you work, love who you work with. I mean, I do find there is a healthy transition to going from corporate to what we're doing now in female foundership, of learning how to work with teams. And something I have really taken from the original Twitter years was, teamwork and really like lifting up my teammates. And I do find that does translate into what we're doing now, because we talk about that, right? I mean, when we get into this world of entrepreneurship, we have our wobbles, we have these moments where we feel alone, but we do lean on each other, you know, and whether it's, I work with you, you're my co-founder on Born to Bloom, we have our amazing Danielle, we have that together, but beyond that too, the community, here we are in London right now. We went to a phenomenal event last night. Our friend Amy Wiener, also known as AKA Amy Dubs, she's creating a great community here in the UK. We're creating big communities in Canada as well, with the likes of Empower Her, with CNBC. There's so many great communities. But I do have to say that, even though it is such a shift from working in the corporate world, like I do want to honor those amazing tools and relationships that I did build. That they can translate through.
Oh my goodness. I think we take so much from what we've done. I think so much about identity, and I think about the Amy that was successful in that world. And I think of her, and up to recently, I thought of her with a little bit of sadness and grief. There was a lot of grief for the ending of that part of my life where I felt very at ease. And, after 20 years of being in the corporate world, I had gotten to a point where you know what's expected of you, right? And you know how to operate in these systems, and you create wonderful, deep, beautiful friendships like us that we've had for years. And so to leave that, and, to leave that intentionally, to try and explore a new world and a new path. And in my case, and in yours as well, we very intentionally stepped into a liminal space where we did not know what we were going to do, and we did not know what to expect. But I think, we were so ready for this new phase in our life. But for me, what surprised me was this sense of grief that I had around saying goodbye to corporate Amy, in a sense, where, she had worked so hard and, been very successful. And I like to say now that, for now anyway, she's retired, that part of me. But to your point, I'll take the incredible skills that we learn in those environments. And they're not gone. We bring them with us, and we bring the lessons that we learned as well. And I think for me, the most important lesson is definitely that our value is intrinsic beyond where we work, beyond what we do. It doesn't matter. Like, if we left the corporate world, if we left Twitter, X, and we never did a thing more for the rest of our lives, we would still be as worthy as we were when we worked at Twitter. And that's, for me, the biggest, I think, realization, learning, journey, all of, I think, what I have just, come to.
We are enough, right? And it's just,
absolutely. Who knew that we had to let go of the corporate to find that out?
I know.
I know. And we had to do nothing in order to find out that we don't need to do anything. you know? And I think that this podcast is going to be so interesting because we're going to be talking to people who are still in the corporate world,
of course,
and that are still, you know, and that is an absolutely viable way of living. Like it's, you know, we need to, we have literal needs. We need food, we need a house, and, you know, much respect. There's still a lot of amazing people, as we both know, working at X now, that we love and that we support, you know. But I think what's exciting is that we get to explore a different type of living, a different type of being, different type of working. And we're going to have so many interesting guests from both of those worlds, the female founder world, as well as people who are still in the corporate world and they're still navigating systems that, you know, at times could be better, let's be honest. But what we want to do is support people who are navigating those journeys through the work that we do.
And I think a big thing that we talk about a lot is duality, right? Two truths can exist at the same time.
Yeah.
You can have a wonderful corporate career and also make sure that you have a sense of your own self and your own identity, who you are. Because I know that's easy to get lost in it sometimes, like you said, when you're part of a family or a corporation where they have their own rooted core values.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes differentiating your own true core values to those of your company can be tough. So it's important that, you know, you can have both, but to understand truly who you are and always be accountable to yourself, right?
Yeah, it has to be. And I think the great work of our lives, I think, is to get to know ourselves really, really well. I think that is just, and it sounds so simplistic, but it's not easy.
I mean, here I am, you know, nearing that big 5-0. I'm not going to lie. I'm not ashamed of it. And it's taking me this long to really, you know, again, taking this time. It's been 8 months since I left my time at Twitter X, and taking that time, that, you know, like that in between, that liminal space. And
so uncomfortable.
I mean, there's days where I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? And then there's days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm just going for a walk with my dog.
Oh God.
And, you know, gardening, like doing things that I, you know, I know, but this sounds crazy, but like, and creativity. Like I'm not going to lie. Like I was in sales for 25 plus years. And I think I kind of had pigeonholed myself to not be a creative person and to not be a visionary.
Which blows my mind, because knowing you as I know you, you are so creative.
Well, I'll be honest, Eames, like, you know, like I won't name names here, but like, there are so many creative, awesome people at Twitter that I was like, oh my God, there's so-and-so on this team that can like do this. And so I would quarterback, as you would as either a leader or as a sales lead or as an account executive, and I would just, you know, be like, okay, well, so-and-so does that. So then I would only focus on one single area.
Yes.
And because there was an need for efficiency, because we had
measured on outputs.
We had to close deals, that I would then just focus all of my air in that one focus. So all of a sudden, that's not really my area of focus anymore.
Yeah.
I was able to unlock all this creativity. And all of a sudden, it's like, we've talked about this, just when you are able to, you know, create opportunities for yourself and allow yourself to think openly.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, what about this and that?
My God.
And it's been amazing.
And that will change your self-concept
100%.
in a sense, right? Because, you know, like you said, you know, when we're in that environment and we have to operate within the systemic rules that are part of that environment, you know, it's fine. Like that's the contract. That's what we agree to when we do it. But when we're out of it, the expansiveness that you can experience is breathtaking, you know, and particularly I found that with the creativity as well, because, you know, when you're in a corporate environment, you're giving so much of yourself, particularly if you're high achieving and you care deeply about accomplishing things, and you're, you know, the good girl, like we talked about, you know, we're hustling and grinding like we definitely did, which I'm so over. I'll hustle in a different way now, but definitely not the way that I was before.
The hustle is your own core value hustle. It's for a different drive.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my goodness, exactly. And I find as well, like for me, the way that my creativity has changed or become enhanced, like due to the evolution that you go through, you know, you can live in this really expansive world where like the learning is insane. And even just, I think, being an entrepreneur in general, and when you are launching a business, you become someone who wears every single hat that's available to be worn, and you are in a trial by fire where you have to, do these
We're
things.
bootstrapping.
Yes. And you figure out how to do social media in a different way. And you figure out how to become a, designer on Canva, running a podcast, us literally sitting here. We have no idea about external hard drives, but we're going to figure it out.
Exactly.
I'm going to edit this somehow, so yeah, but it's great to be here. And, what I really want from this podcast is, as a coach, one of the philosophies that I live by is the ability for conversation and dialogue and language to allow us to explore new possibility that maybe we didn't know about before, particularly a two-way dialogue and a two-way conversation, and what can happen beautifully as a result of that presence being together. And so, what I hope is that in this journey of doing this podcast together, we invite people who are listening, whoever that might be, to explore new possibilities and to potentially, hear our stories and the stories of the people that we're going to have as guests. We've got some amazing people that we're going to ask to join us, people who have experienced what we've experienced, people who are entrepreneurs and all different walks of life, and perhaps unlock new perspectives and possibility for the people listening.
You're going to hear throughout this podcast a little bit of woo-woo from me, a little bit of spirituality.
We love woo-woo.
We love woo-woo. And I'm very aligned to numbers as well. So my number is 3. I was born March 3rd. So I'm all about the 333. So I incorporate that into every aspect of my life, whether it's, launching with 3 founders, or with my other company that I'm co-founding with another amazing woman. We have 3 pillars of business. So for my whatever, like I inject or integrate into anything I do, there is going to be an aspect of 3.
Yeah.
So throughout the podcast series, you're going to hear me ask our inspiring guests things in the power of 3. So whether it's 3 things that impact them in their lives, or 3 things are goals. So, for me, I'll talk about, things that maybe 3 things that I'm really grateful for, and 3 things I'm excited about for this year.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
3 being so important. And I don't know why, but when you were speaking about that, I just got the sense of a triangle.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but that was the shape that kind of came to me when you were talking about that. And this, the way the triangle, just the 3 kind of pillars of learning, or,
Well, it's just so funny. Like for example, when my other company, Element, which I've launched with Jenny Fields, my amazing co-founder, I was in London, and it was, so my birthday's 3/3. So here in London again, a year later. And it was last year on my birthday, 3/3, where the name Element came.
And it's Element with 2 L's.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're in your element, in your female element. And Andrea, one of our other friends, who her birthday is March 12th. So she's another 3/3. So we're 3/3 sisters. We can get into when Andrea's on our podcast one day, we'll get into
we'll have her as a guest.
Our
for
connection.
Sure.
It's kind of wild in many facets.
Yes.
But our hotel room was 333
that
we were staying in when the creation of Element came to be. So,
and I wonder if you have another company in you, because you've got Element now, you've got Bond to Blue with me.
I've launched my own brand as well.
Oh, of course, that's right. So you already are 3. Yeah. Sydney Hannah Robertson, of course. Your own kind of personal ventures and things that you're excited about.
Yeah, my own consulting and advisory business.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and we want to give back, and I think for my theme, like throughout this podcast, will definitely be about the meaning, and asking people, what is it that this, whatever topic, whatever we're talking about at the time, like, what is the deeper meaning behind that? What does it say about you as a person, your state of being? Who do you want to be? Very curious about those questions. I did philosophy many moons ago.
I know. And anyone that I talk to that's worked with you, Ames, has always said, when they work with you, whether it's just like, I have the luxury of having a weekly conversation with you every week. I feel like I'm getting free advice every week.
I feel
so fulfilled. But anyone that I've spoken to that works with you says the way that you work with them it's so thought provoking, because you root it back, I guess, to your philosophy, but you get them to think. And I think that's such a
thinking partnership, like you were saying.
But such a unique gift that you have, which is different than just someone saying, these are the things you have to do to be successful, right?
Yeah.
You're getting them, you're empowering them to
Well,
think.
that's it. Because,
right?
you know,
it's rooted in their meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think it's possible for us. We can give advice for sure. And I think that that's helpful, particularly if the person is open to it, right?
Sure.
Like, and asks for it. But true learning and integration of that learning, I think, comes from within the person. And so they have to figure it out for themselves.
Absolutely.
Which is why I think one of the most important skills that we can have is an open mind and curiosity about the potential or the possibility in the world, you know, and cultivating a curious mind is possibly the most valuable thing that you can have, you know, and I love that. And I love the fact that we're doing this together and that we're going to get all these amazing guests to be on here so that we can ask them these types of questions and buzz off each other as well.
I'm so excited to be on this journey with you.
I know.
It's going to be a ride, girl. It's going to be a ride.
It is.
Yeah.
Aww. And thank you all for joining us, whoever you are, even if it's just one of our friends in Toronto. We'll have to see how it goes. But
Absolutely.
no, we're going to be getting to the meaning of things.
Yes.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Thank you for listening. We can't wait to have you on this ride with us. And if you like this podcast, don't forget to rate us and subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.